Welcome to property number 18 in my 25 by 25 challenge. This property has a 3.125% interest rate that I took over subject to. We did the whole remodel ourselves. When we bought this property, it wasn't quite rentable yet. We remodeled the whole bathroom. We painted the entire house top to bottom, put in new floorings in half the house. Cannot wait for you guys to check it out. This property is gonna cash flow $600 a month on a long-term rental alone, and wait till you see what we have in the backyard that we plan on doing later. So we're on our way to our property in St. Petersburg right now, in the Jungle Terrace neighborhood. And as you can see from those properties right back there are developers coming into this area that are demoing these older properties and building ground up. Those properties are selling for a lot higher price points that exist in this market currently. So over the course of time, even though we're going through a market correction, what we're gonna see is prices are going to rise in this market. As you can see as well, just up the street from the property, they're building a brand new Publix right here. So all of this stuff is things that I consider when I'm buying a property in a neighborhood. What is that neighborhood gonna look like in 5, 7, 10 years? What jobs are coming to the market? What type of housing is coming to the market? What are values projected to grow at the rate of in this market? Are people building here? What are all these variables that are going to contribute to the rising growth of this market over time? And because of those factors that we just drove by and showed you, this property over here is going to be in great shape in the Jungle Terrace neighborhood of St. Petersburg over the next 5, 7, 10 years. What's closing and funding today?
Hopefully the land. We'll see.
So the Cape Coral land?
Yeah, St. Petersburg, if it doesn't close today, it's going to have to be next week because their closers out of town. So they're working on that.
Got it. Okay. And then you and Nick were typing up a couple other contracts, and we have that one in Baltimore, that SubTo deal. I think there was one in Detroit, and then there was a third one in Houston. What ended up working out with those three?
I don't know. David needs to sign this Ethan Allen cancellation. He opened it according to what I'm seeing here.
Interesting.
But, so just follow up with Raphael there. But the other William opened up these 3 contracts but didn't sign them. So I'll have Nick annoy Jacob about that.
Got it. All right, that sounds good, bro. It's a subject to deal, which means that the seller actually left the mortgage in place at closing that I took over. It has a 3.125% interest rate. The reason why someone would be willing to do something like that is he doesn't have a ton of equity in today's market, and he's been trying to sell the property for a pretty long time because unfortunately he wasn't really able to maintain the mortgage payments. What I did was I came in, I caught up that mortgage. I gave him a couple of bucks for moving money. He was super happy. He was able to move on to a more affordable property for him, and we picked up a rental with a fantastic interest rate. So what's gonna happen now is this property, the payment is around $1,500 a month. You're talking principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. We're gonna rent it for around $2,100, which is a $600 gross cash flow spread, meaning that before any expenses, the property will generate around $600 a month in cash flow, which is a great return right now in Florida, where it's historically a little bit more difficult to cash flow on long-term rentals. And you'll see in other videos, we acquire properties with multiple strategies. One being the regular long-term rental route, which is the one that you're gonna see now. Other strategies include PadSplit, which you'll see in other videos. And we do something called a wrap strategy as well, which is a third strategy that we use, where we'll take over a property subject to the existing mortgage. So let's just say property has a 3% interest rate that I'm taking over subject to. What we'll do is we'll find what's called a penalty box buyer. And what that means is that buyer might not be able to qualify for traditional financing. So they'll have the cash. A lot of these people work blue collar jobs, so they've got the cash reserves to purchase a property. But in the eyes of the bank, they're not bankable because they don't really have established credit. Some of them have ITIN numbers, so they're not Social Security backed. They don't have Social Security numbers. Things like that you'll want to be able to find. Typically, these people will be able to afford a property, but the bank doesn't actually allow them to finance them because they're not bankable in their eyes. So what we'll do is we'll finance them the property at a higher interest rate than what we have. So in this instance, the example that I gave was a 3% interest rate. What we'll do is we'll mark up the property by 10 or 15% of today's fair market value, and we'll seller finance that to them at 7.5 or 8% interest. So in this instance, they actually get ownership of the property, and me as the investor becomes the bank. So now I'm actually cash flowing the difference between their mortgage and my mortgage every single month. So in terms of passive cash flow, that's one of the main things that type of investment strategy provides. A lot of the other strategies, PadSplit, long-term rent, you could systematize them, but if things start to break and there's issues with the property and the tenant needs something, you as the landlord, it falls on your lap. It's your responsibility to actually go in there and fix those issues. With the wrap strategy, since you're giving up ownership of the property, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So for example, you go to the bank and you get a mortgage and you buy a property, that's your house. So you're responsible to pay the bank no matter what every single month. So at the end of the month, you pay the mortgage, the next month comes, now you need a new roof on the property. That's not something the bank is concerned about. So all of the CapEx stuff, all of the stuff that people have to put into the property to actually maintain it, you don't have to worry about with that strategy. So it's more so about maintaining service control over the loan and making sure that you're collecting the proper amount for taxes and insurance from the borrower or the buyer. A lot of the times we like to use what's called a third-party servicer to service that loan, and what their job is to actually make sure that the escrow is being collected correctly, which means that they're collecting the exact amount of taxes and insurance that are required to make sure that property is in good standing. So you'll see all of that in this video, in other videos. We got a lot in store for you, so make sure you stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe. All of this is gonna be part, or most of it is gonna be part of our 25 by 25 challenge, where I started at property number 18, which is the property that we just were on our way to. The rest of them we'll get to, you'll see them. You'll even see a PadSplit that we had before this challenge even started. And our goal is to reach 25 rental properties by 25 years old. So let me know if you think I could do it in the comments below. I'm excited to see your feedback. Subscribe if you find this information valuable. Stay tuned. Welcome to property number 18 in my 25 by 25 challenge. This property has a 3.125% interest rate that I took over subject to. We did the whole remodel ourselves. When we bought this property, it wasn't quite rentable yet. We remodeled the whole bathroom. We painted the entire house top to bottom, put in new floorings in half the house. I cannot wait for you guys to check it out. This property is gonna cash flow $600 a month on a long-term rental alone, and wait till you see what we have in the backyard that we plan on doing later. So follow me into the house. So we just stepped into the house here. It is a 2-bed, 1-bath, 720 square foot house. Pretty small house for sure, but this is pretty common in the St. Petersburg area to have properties this size. The thing that's super attractive about this property is we have a 2020 roof, brand new. It is a concrete slab foundation. It is a block home. Me personally, in Florida, especially in areas that accumulate a lot of moisture, humidity, things like that, I stay away from wood frame properties and gravitate towards block because you have the issue of termites. Very, very prevalent in the state of Florida. So just for me, I'm doing slab foundation, block homes. This one's a 1958 build, so a little bit on the older side. We definitely have cast iron piping in this house, but we've got it checked out. It's good to go. Don't be scared of the cast iron. It's not always a terrible thing to have cast iron. If you check it out, it checks out, you get it drained, scoped, you're good to go. This property is sturdy. If you walk into the house here, you see that we repainted the whole thing. A nice neutral white, off-white type of color. It makes the room pop immediately when you walk in. If you turn this way, you have the kitchen area over here. Same thing, full repaint throughout. We actually didn't do much in the kitchen at all. This is all pretty much the same as when we took care of the acquisition here, but a fresh coat of paint went a really long way. We were lucky enough to have nice countertops, nice appliances that we were able to keep. Countertops look great, cabinets look really good, so super solid, not much to do in here. If you follow me this way, like I said, Not a very big home, so there's not too much to show here. There is a lot in store for you to see back here, and wait till you see the backyard. What we did here is we threw in a transition piece. When we bought the property, this was all tile going throughout here and into the bathroom. It was all cracked up. So what we had to do is we had to take the tile out, remodel the entire bathroom, which you'll see in a second, but let's step into the bedroom. This is the smaller of the two bedrooms. If you see over here, you've got your closet space, not super big, but serviceable. We redid the entire floor in here with LVP. We laid that down, made it pop. Huge difference. When we bought this property, this room was pink. So you don't want to have a rental with pink rooms. You want to go more neutral color. This is exactly what we did in here. A nice off-white, a nice grayish LVP, makes the room pop, neutral color, good to go. So as you can see, a little bit bigger of a closet, not too much different in terms of room size. Same thing in here. When we bought this house, the bedrooms had really cheap LVP, and the person didn't lay it right. So what was actually happening was in this area over here, he had a chair and it would go back and forth. It actually cracked the LVP. So the floor was completely exposed, the subfloor. What we did was we came in, we repainted the entire room, we put in new flooring, very minimal expense. We did it ourselves, and so we were able to cut costs in that regard, but it made the room pop, and this is only about 2-3 days of work to do a bedroom like this. The main thing that took the longest period of time here was to remodel that bathroom. So what you'll see is we have tile, a new tub, new fixtures over here, completely repainted bathroom. This bathroom, when we bought this property, did not have a vent fan. We added that vent fan. You can see here, it's tied in to the light switch. So when the tenant turns on the light, the vent fan automatically turns on. What that's gonna do for you is when the tenant takes a shower or does things for humidity buildup in the bathroom, it's automatically gonna turn on the vent fan, which is what you want, because when humidity builds up, the paint will start to peel, things will start to happen in the bathroom, so that when you turn the unit, you might have some more expenses that you're not totally wanting to have. So as a preventative measure, nice little feature. It's not too loud, overpowering. I've lived in properties before where they've tied in the vent fan to the light switch and it's been overpowering and loud. This is nice and quiet. You can't even tell it's on half the time, so it's perfect. So this property comes equipped with washer and dryer in the utility closet, which I'll show you right now. You got your own little utility closet over here, new washer and dryer. There's the electrical panel over there. You're totally set. So you have your in-unit washer and dryer, your hot water tank in your utility closet over here. If you step out to the yard, you'll be able to tell. This property, like I said, is about 720 square feet, but the lot is pretty big comparative to the property. Don't mind the lawn. We get this lawn landscaped every other week, but it is August in Florida, and with that comes humidity, rain. It grows like weeds here. You can't even keep up with it. So if you look into the yard, this yard is quite massive. It's a big yard comparative to the property. So one of the things that the city of St. Petersburg is doing is they're encouraging people to develop ADUs, or additional dwelling units. And what that means is it's a separate structure on your property, or maybe it's attached to your property, one or the other. They're also doing the same thing in Tampa, but the unique part about St. Petersburg is that they're allowing people to do it as investors. In Tampa, you need to own or occupy your property, which means you have to live in it. If you're gonna put an ADU and rent it out in your yard or convert part of your property to an ADU. But in St. Petersburg, you could obtain a business tax certificate and put an ADU in your property. Now there's size requirements, there's permitting requirements, there's a bunch of different things that you'll have to jump through to get that. Just know that with the proper paperwork, it is possible to do that. In the backyard here, if we were to do that with the proper setbacks, the proper size comparative to the property, we might be looking at another $1,000 to $1,400 in rent for this property. And like I said in the beginning, this property is already going to cash flow $600 a month. So if we add another $1,200 back here, now for this property with a 3.25% interest rate, we're gonna be able to cash flow over $1,000 a month. We're in it for, because we did our own renovation, we're only in it for about $30,000 of our own money. You do the math on the cash on cash return for that. Big opportunity in the backyard here, which is one of the things I really like about St. Petersburg, is that they're a little bit more investor friendly for things like this. More properties like this are definitely on my radar, especially if we could snag them up with that great interest rate. Hopefully that was super helpful for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the walkthrough of the 18th property in our 25 by 25 challenge. Stay tuned, comment below, let me know if I can do it, and stay tuned for the next one.